In the lands of Mordor, where the shadows lie, there's a ranger, and he's pissed. And Shadow of Mordor aims to make you feel every ounce of that rage through its amazingly brutal and gritty gameplay. I've always been a fan of violent video games, ever since I was a kid. Specifically ones that make you feel like a powerful, blood-soaked badass who will kill anyone who stands in his way. I've played many games growing up that give off this vibe, Prototype, Assassin's Creed, but no game has ever made me feel more powerful and immersed in a character's violent actions than Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. From the moment I killed my first orc back in 2014, I knew I was in for something truly special. But how does Shadow of Mordor make you feel so immersed in the pain you inflict onto these poor orcs? Well, for starters, I think we should talk about just why we're killing them in the first place. In Shadow of Mordor, you play as a ranger of the Black Gate, Talion, a noble man who staves off the forces of darkness that wants to take hold of all of Middle-earth. Talion is a family man at heart, living with his wife and son at the Black Gates, all while he protects the lands. That is until the Black Hand of Sauron launches a brutal assault on the Black Gates and mercilessly kills Talion's wife and child right in front of him. Then, they kill Talion and possess his corpse with the wraith spirit Celebrimbor. Talion may not be the most nuanced or deep character you can find in video games, but what is there and what he goes through is more than enough for the player to empathize with his desire to absolutely destroy the Black Hand and all orcs who stand in his way. That's where the gameplay comes in, taking heavy inspiration from the Assassin's Creed games and the Arkham games. In my opinion, you won't find a more satisfying and visceral combat system in any game of its genre. This game makes you feel badass. Taking the stealth and some slight free running from Assassin's Creed, the game gives off this sense of being the ultimate predator, able to blindside any orc before leaping from a high ledge and driving your blade into his neck. Amazing. Then the developers took heavy inspiration from the Batman Arkham games, with a combat system that is renowned for making the player feel like an unbeatable combat master. Which leads me into the clear emotion behind every second of combat in this game. The animations convey such a sense of rage and hatred for your enemies. In some stealth animations, Talion will literally drive the sword with such force in the enemy's skull that their arms convulse. It's sick, but what would you expect from a man whose family was killed right in front of him, whose life was destroyed for the sake of bringing back some old dead spirit? You can tell the developers wanted you to see every bit of hate in those kills, and it's seen. Ground kills see Talion breaking arms and grabbing orcs trying to crawl away by stabbing them in the leg and pulling them back. Brutalized kills have you stabbing the enemy so many times and so deep that Talion has to use brute strength to pull the blade from their body, tearing all flesh along the way. Shadow strikes have you teleport across the map to then swiftly cut off an unsuspecting enemy's head. I could go on and on about how they show his anger. But what about player motivation? Why should I want to cut the enemy's heads off so badly? Well, I'll tell you why. The Nemesis system. Shadow of Mordor was the originator of the famed Nemesis system, a complex feature allowing you to basically create your own stories and rivalries of orcs in your game. Orcs who kill you will remember you next time you come back for revenge, and will have their own unique character and personality, all randomized from a selection of traits. So now, take that combat system we talked about with its brutal animations and add characters who you legitimately start to hate after they've killed you 6 times and mocked you every step of the way. You get a masterpiece in player agency and motivation. Once you finally kill Og the Beheader by driving your sword through his throat after a lengthy battle, the sense of satisfaction is like no other game I've ever played. All of these things come together to make such a gritty, immersive combat experience, or just an experience overall, that I just never want to put down. There were times where I would ignore my friends for days just because I'm so invested in wanting to kill the next orc. A dark, unforgiving world where you're even more of an unforgiving force. That is how Shadow of Mordor makes you feel its vengeance.